How's it going? I'm Ryan. Today, I'm going to go over the few trades that I took on ES and NQ. Took two trades on ES, three trades on MNQ. Ended up with a decent day today. Took a few trades I probably shouldn't have overall, over traded by a couple, but we were able to bring it back, take some better trades later in the day, come around, and yeah, today was a bit of a seesaw, right? Had some losing trades, had some winning trades, kind of going back between positive and negative. Ended the day with two wins that brought us positive overall. So we'll get into that. I'm looking at ES here. Coming into the day, we were opening up right kind of at the top of the zone around like 5307. You can see we had some big wicks, some big bounces from this area. What I wanted to see is a break above these areas, like these wicks around like 307 or so. A break above and then a retest and continuation. We got that later in the day. That was my final trade. I got it for 4 points. It ran like over 20. So, you know, it is what it is. But that was what I was watching on ES. We also were watching, you know, a few zones to the upside, 5330 to 5333. These are all the same from previous days. So on ES, what was I watching? I was watching for us to break above that pre-market high, break above this level that we bounced, flip that into support, and then rally. On NQ, what was I looking at? Similar thing, but this level right up in here, around like 18,820 or so, where we'd had a few rejections in here, this bounce. I wanted to see a break out of that zone. And you see, once we broke through here, we went straight up to this next level up here, around like 18,920 to 18,932 or so. That's kind of what we were watching. Had I stayed true to those two things, I would have had a really good day. I overtraded, like I said, but we'll get into that. My very first trade of the day was a short position on NQ. I was watching NQ because we had these pre-market highs in here. We also had high a day in here, and when we started to come up about 15 minutes or so after the open, I took a short position in here near high day, near pre-market high. My stop was a few points above high day, so we came up, stopped me out, and immediately reversed. Where's my target? My target was the bottom of this zone. So if we're looking at that on a lower time frame, we can see what we're looking at here. So it's back here. Here we are. All right, so we had pre-market high over here, high a day right here, and you can see that we'd been rejecting off of this area. Once we came back up, I entered a short position here. Then we blew through. My stop, like I said, was a few points above high a day, so about a 9-point stop. Got stopped out there. We did reverse. This was the bottom of this blue zone here, around like 18,750 was my take profit. Reason being is we had a few bounces in this area. We had a few support turn resistance this area, and it was about a 20-point move. So I risked 9 points for 20 points, about a 2-to-1 ratio there. That was my first trade of the day and a loser. We go over to ES for the next trade. I took a call or a long position in here. Reason being, we had been rejecting off the top of this zone, but we had pulled back into an area that we'd found support before. So if I just draw a level in this area, you can see we kind of had these wicks in here. We had these wicks in here. We had support here, and then we were coming down and we were forming some lower wicks in here. So I took a long position in here. I actually took 2 contracts. I took one initially. As we came a little lower, I averaged into that and got a better fill overall. My target was the top of this zone. I didn't quite get that target because we had news come out. So let's take a look at this. Let's move this. So as we were holding in here, I entered one position in here. I entered another position somewhere in here. So my fill price was around 52.97 or 98. I think it was about 98 in here. We had news at 8, and you can see at 8 is what really made it pop off. So it looks like we were rounding, we were curling, looking for that move up to the top of this range. That's what I was looking for. Once we started to move up, I took both orders off somewhere in here. So I missed out on about 2.5 points or so of profit to my original take profit, which is the top of this range here. I did that because this pump came off some news, and I wasn't sure if we would kind of get that pump and then drop. Because we did have news, I brought my stop loss up, and had it dropped, it would have stopped me out for a few point loss, but was willing to take a little bit of a risk here. So this trade was definitely aided by some news going in my way. Not the greatest trade. Had there not been news, I really like that setup. It's coming down, forming that hammer in that support area. So I don't regret taking the trade. But the news definitely helped me out if the news could determine that trade fairly easily. So that made some money back and some from the first trade. So we're up at this point. We go back over to NQ. And this is how I was over trading, because I was kind of just flipping back and forth, taking trades here. I took a short position up in here on NQ. Take a look why. It was at the top of this range. I was looking at this rejection that we had in here, as well as kind of seeing some rejections in here. So as we came up and we started forming some wicks, we had 1, 2, 3. I think I entered somewhere in here on this third wick off this area. You can see that we were rejecting off this area. We're forming a higher low. So I was hoping that we'd break out of that support and come back down maybe into this level or so. I entered a short position. Actually entered 2 short positions here, so I sized into this trade. And then as we pushed up, I got stopped out up in here. So had a little wider stop, and I sized up more than I should have. It was a strong day. NQ's in an uptrend from yesterday's close, like this whole time. So fighting against that probably wasn't the greatest thing. Probably should have been just looking for longs, really, in an uptrending day. So that was that trade. That made me back to negative. But seeing the strength that we had in the day, we broke above that and we started forming this range inside this zone here. You can see that on the 5,000 tick chart here. We were kind of stuck within this range. When we broke above this range, I took a single contract long on the breakout. Normally don't take breakout trades, but just with the strength that we were showing and seeing that we kind of had this consolidation breakout, I was looking for this trend to continue. And once we formed a high a day, I was kind of just trailing it, letting it run, just seeing what would happen. But once we started kind of chopping around in here, I just set the take profit at high a day and got stopped out there for a decent win. I think my entry was somewhere in here around like 820. My take profit was like 37. So about a 17, 16 point win or so. This brought me back to positive on the day. So a small green day at this point. From there, I kind of hung out, sat around, didn't do a whole lot until the final trade that I took, which was back on ES. And this was a long here. And this is that trade that I originally said. Also, that winning trade that I had on NQ was a break above this zone right here, the break that I wanted to see. It got the break and retest and moved perfectly up to the next zone. That is an absolutely incredible trade. 818 to, that's a 100-point move. So that's insanity. I wish I got long here. That's an absolutely beautiful move. Straight vertical, no pullback. Couldn't do it any better. That being said, though, I caught the equivalent trade on ES. This is kind of what I was watching, right? I wanted to see us break above that pre-market high, break above these bounce levels, reclaim it, and move up. We get that break here. We come down, we form this hammer. I entered single long position, targeting high a day, stop loss below this wick low. Let's take a look at that. So we're looking right here. Or excuse me, stop loss was down here below these wick lows. So stop loss was here. Entry was somewhere around this area, around like 307 or so. Take profit was up in here. No, I must have had a worse entry. I must have had 308. My take profit was around high a day. Yeah, that's it. 308 was my entry. My take profit was like 312.50 or so. About 4.5 moves or 4.5 points there. But once we got that break that I was watching, we came back. We held that level, beautiful, formed that hammer on the 5,000 tick chart. I entered, yeah, so I waited for that candle to close and then entered. I guess that's why I got that like 508 or so fill. At that point though, we profited the high day. That was a nice trade, but you can see we moved all the way up into this next zone, which is over a 20-point move. So I got in around 308, you know, we moved up to 329 or so. That was perfect. Likewise, that same trade on NQ was really, really nice. That break and retest that zone up to the next. They both kind of moved the exact same. I got a very small piece of that, but nonetheless was able to end the week green. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the only days I traded this week, all 3 green. Certainly better from last week. Got a little bit of the over trading today. Had I just stick to my roots and look for those 2 trades, either one of those would have been nice. Nonetheless, came out of the day with a win. We move on to maybe next week. I think actually I'll be taking the entirety of next week off due to travel. So I should be back sometime in the week after. That's all I got. I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. I do trade live Monday through Friday. Feel so inclined, stop by, say what's up, hang out. All right, take it easy. Peace.